one of the questions that I get most often is related to asset protection and revocable living trust. So the question is, does a revocable living trust provide asset protection from personal creditor claims? Let's get into it. All right, does a revocable living trust provide asset protection from personal creditor claims? A lot of times people think that it does, and I've even seen videos on social media, on YouTube. I've seen articles written elsewhere, and I've heard people talk about it. And they say that a revocable living trust does provide asset protection. And the answer is no, it does not. A revocable living trust does not provide asset protection from personal creditors. One of the things it does or potentially can do is provide a level of privacy, not strong privacy, but a level of privacy. And I think often that's what people are getting confused about this. I won't go into details about the privacy, but let's focus on this asset protection aspect of this, or this lack of asset protection related to the revocable living trust. So it doesn't provide asset protection, but why does it not provide that benefit? Short answer is this: a revocable living trust doesn't really give up enough control for you to not be considered to own the assets for purposes of liability. So with a revocable living trust, typically how it's set up is that you, the client, are setting it up for your own benefit. Often we'll see spouses have a joint revocable living trust, and they'll set it up for their co-benefit, right? So both of them are typically the co-trustees on that, meaning they manage the assets, and they're both also the beneficiaries. Now, in that trust document, they retain the ability to revoke that living trust, amend that living trust, restate that living trust, do anything that they want to that living trust at any given time. There's no limitation to what they can and can't do with the trust, as well as what they can and cannot do with the assets. So for all intents and purposes, there really is no difference between owning those assets in their personal names or in the name of the trust. Really, the value with the revocable living trust is that it avoids probate. So it does provide a streamlined administration aspect to the client, which is very, very important. But because the client's not giving up really any control at all, there isn't this asset protection piece to the revocable living trust. If you want asset protection from personal creditor claims, what you have to focus on is irrevocable trust planning. And there's a few different ways to go about this. In most states, you cannot set up an irrevocable trust for your own benefit. Someone else, a third party, would have to set it up for your benefit. So often we'll see parents setting up an irrevocable trust for the benefit of their children, passing an inheritance inside that trust for the benefit of the kids. To the extent that those children have a personal creditor claim against them, those assets in that irrevocable trust are typically going to be protected from personal creditor claims, divorcing spouses, negligence, malpractice, potentially bankruptcy, whatever it may be. Now, there's different ways to structure that trust to provide maximum flexibility to the child or to the beneficiary, whoever that may be. And I have a video about that. If you want to know how to foolproof an inheritance or the best way to receive or give an inheritance, we have a video about inheritors trust. So there's different ways to structure that the beneficiary potentially could be the trustee of a trust, which they're the beneficiary of. The other option is to do what's called a self-settled domestic asset protection trust or foreign asset protection trust. And so there's certain jurisdictions that allow you to set up an irrevocable trust for your own benefit and then fund that trust with your own assets. There's different ways that those have to be set up to be legitimate and to make sure that you're actually protecting your assets. Again, we got a lot of videos about that and how to accomplish that. So different jurisdictions in the US are recognized as being very, very, very strong asset protection jurisdictions. Think about South Dakota, think about Nevada. There's a few others. As far as foreign jurisdictions, think about Nevis, but really Cook Islands is probably the premier jurisdiction. There's some others that are really, really strong that are worth using. But at the end of the day, a revocable living trust is not going to provide asset protection. It's going to streamline administration for when someone does pass away or when they are incapacitated. And it also can provide a aspect of privacy for a few different reasons. One, it keeps assets out of a person's individual name, but then also because it's going to circumvent, it's going to bypass probate, and probate is it's subject to the public domain. Anyone can access the information that does go through probate. So if you want asset protection, you have to do something more sophisticated and advanced than a revocable living trust.